This is the exciting part. Get to open it up, have a look, see what they look like. I mean, I guess we saw them in China, but now they're here. Okay, if you guys are wondering if Edison is a company that cuts cost or not, this is our company vehicle. We got an older Ford Ranger, and yeah, so basically you got some EV companies where the CEO is flying around in a private jet, and then you got Edison Motors where the CEO is riding in the back seat of a 1990s Ford Ranger. 03 Ford Ranger, sorry. Okay, you guys know we've been working with Hendrickson on the truck suspension. We're going with a Primax on these next trucks. Now we could get them from the Hendrickson warehouse, but that would take a couple weeks shipping, and we got the frame rails and axles coming in right away. So luckily with off-the-shelf parts, we ran up to Inland Kenworth, and they had those parts in stock in their warehouse that we're using on our truck. So we got all those parts lists, and basically there's the parts. So luckily they had most of these suspension parts in stock, so we're gonna go in, load them up, bring them back to the trucks. Okay, I want to give a big thanks to Inland Kenworth. Kenworth has been absolutely fantastic helping us out from the start, all the way from Carl to Topsy. It was Kenworth that told us where to go for the frame rail manufacturers, helping us out with parts, airlines, you name it. This company has been so fantastic in helping us out along this journey. So I just wanted to give Inland Kenworth a big shout out, especially the parts guys here. They are absolutely fantastic.
So we're back at Kenworth right now. I got awesome child labor, my son Hunter. We're picking up the rest of the suspension parts. They're coming right now.
This is our Hendrickson Primax suspension. We went to Kenworth. They helped us get these parts in real quick. Now we got the cross members that go between the frame rails. We need to get our lower saddle mounts up. We just got those 3D printed right now, so we're just gonna test fitment on that because that's gonna have to be CNC. Like, that is one of the custom parts because these E-axles don't yet have mass-produced hangers for the Hendrickson suspension, but it's all here. So we got cross members, axles, suspension parts. We can start getting this chassis together. We're still waiting on the steer axle components to arrive. That's one of the fewer things, but at least we can get the back end starting build. Okay, so Peter and Levi made these. They're wicked good at 3D printing, and they're basically test fitment. So once we had the suspension in here, mocked up, these guys slide on the lower bar pin down there. 2 bolts go through, 2 bolts go through the top piece on here, bolts onto there, and then that sandwiches in. You drop 4 bolts, slide your axle in, attach it. When you want to dump it, you just take the 4 bolts out, lower the suspension away, slide the axle out. That's how you change out an axle on a semi-truck. Pretty slick, pretty easy. All there is to it. So this is a massive upgrade in suspension. You guys know we did rubber block for testing on Topsy because rubber block is awful, it truly sucks. This is air ride. So this has got heavy lifting capacity, but it's gonna be cushioned, so it's gonna just give everything a lot smoother ride. This is what we got on Topsy. This is Hendrickson rubber block over walking beam. No airbags, these are solid rubber pucks. These are the most stiffest suspension you can possibly get, and it shakes everything loose. But that is the purpose of having a prototype, because these next trucks are going to customers. We wanna make sure the driver has a smooth ride. So we got the new mirrors on. We've been driving around. I wasn't happy with the mirror placement out there. It was kind of always hidden behind this pillar. Wasn't great. We could have brought it out more, but that looked goofy, but we just put them right on the fender. Great visibility from the cab. I can say now, sitting in this, driving this a bit, it's way, way better. And it is sturdy. Like, you can shake this thing pretty good, and that mirror does not move. Bounces a little bit, but no more than if you were to smack a normal mirror. You can see I got a view, so it's hard to tell in it, but you can see the tires right there. That is just overall a much, much better location to have those mirrors. All right, today is an exciting day for me. I'm gonna get to hop in Old Blue, go do some trucking again, but more importantly, we're going down to Vancouver. We're getting those axles. They got shipped over. If you remember, we went, we saw the factory. They're finally here. Driving Old Blue down, picking them up. Oh, it's gonna be a good day. I love getting out of the office and being able to drive truck again. That is what I love doing. Okay, so we're picking up 5 axles, so we're building 2 trucks. They're both gonna be tandems. And then of course, we've learned now, always get a spare of everything. So we got a 5 for 2 trucks, 1 spare. All right, so in the back here is everything we need to build these semi-trucks. We got motor control units, water pumps, power steering pumps, MCUs, basically everything else that's part of the truck. Everything else that is required to make this truck move and drive. So we got axles, generators, all high voltage components for the next truck are already here. That's pretty exciting. Fun fact about load securement, one of the most important things is giving them a slap and saying that ain't going anywhere. If you don't do that, it is legally not secured. Okay, one thing that I like to do is I weld all the cinches onto the passenger side. Because you think about it, you got to pull over on the side of the road, you go through, tighten it, do a load check. A lot of people put their cinches all on the driver's side. Now if you got to do anything, you're standing out in the middle of traffic where cars are. Always weld your cinches onto the passenger side. And I see so few trailers like this and it drives me nuts. All right, so this truck here is Old Blue. This is our still diesel mechanical truck. This is the first truck me and Eric ever bought when we started our trucking company. This is a 1969 Kenworth LW Big Cam 400 Hendrickson rubber block over walking beam, which is probably why you're seeing some camera shake. She is rough, but I mean, she is also 50, 60 years old. But this truck is a workhorse. Like, I cannot get over how reliable this thing is. You see, we bought this truck off a fella named Bob Murphy. Bob Murphy bought this truck brand new in 1969. He ran that truck from his 20s all the way until he retired. Unfortunately, Bob passed away last year, but we bought this truck before he went on into the retirement home, about 8 years ago. And he made us a promise. He said, I'll sell you this truck, but you keep that truck working, keep that truck the way it is. So it stayed with the engine that Bob put in it. It stayed with the 15 over that Bob's put in it. We haven't put air ride. And we just keep this truck going in Bob's memory there. But the first truck we ever started with, he said $4,000, truck and trailer. And you know what? I think in the 8 years we've had it, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles I put on this thing, we put in maybe about $7,000 worth of parts. That's it. That is it. So $14,000, $15,000 total on this truck for an off-highway logging and low bed truck is incredibly cheap. This is one of those reasons why I'm so passionate about planned obsolescence, because I think everybody in the future should have a chance to be like Bob, where you buy one truck, you drive that truck your whole career, you get it paid off, and then the extra money can go to his family. See, back in the day, owner-operators would pay these trucks off, and they would run them for another 20 years. Well, once you got rid of the truck payment, that was an extra $4,000 or $5,000 a month that could go to your family. It was the resurgence of the owner-operator being upper middle class, making extra money, or putting that money towards a second or a third truck to grow the business. And unfortunately, because trucks don't last 20, 25 years anymore, we're just losing out on that. Like, these old trucks are fantastic. Here's another one. There's a 1970s cab over coming around. The reason you still see these old trucks on the road is just that they're so reliable. We gotta get back to this. We gotta get back, no planned obsolescence, pro right to repair. You can fix it, you can work on it. We gotta bring that middle class back. We gotta bring back the good career of being an owner operator, growing a small company. All right, we got her to the Emcon yard here, so they're gonna be excited. Got the axles, just gotta get them unloaded now. That was a long, hot drive in a truck with no air conditioning. This is the exciting part. Get to open it up, have a look, see what they look like. I mean, I guess we saw them in China, but now they're here. Nice. It's got the spare parts, spare bearings, most commonly changed out or common to break things. They sent us a few extra parts just in case. We're like, hey, we want to have spare parts on the shelf. That's why we ordered a spare axle, and now we actually have some spare parts to go along with the spares. So there they are. Ah, that is awesome. So this is what I'm most excited about. These are our new axles, and these are a massive, massive improvement. Starting on the far side, we still have planetaries for that 3-to-1 reduction, but we got disc brakes now. Obviously disc brakes are a lot better. But more importantly, when it comes to this part here, this electric motor, you have one on each side. If you remember before, we had one motor sitting right out on the far side. Problem with that one motor is that you have a fulcrum point. If you have something extended, the farther out it is, the more weight it puts because it's just more leverage. So by tightening this up, it's making a much more secure, much more packaged. You'd also notice that it's now skid plated, so remember before we had to rotate the axles around because we didn't want that electric motor at the front getting hit? Now it is a full steel, basically both are like the rear ends of the pumpkin. So you're going forward, reverse in the mud, it's not gonna matter, it's gonna protect it. And more importantly on design, it has 2 electric motors. So you got one motor comes out and it runs this way out to the axle, this motor comes in, runs out this way. Now we can have one electric motor controlling each wheel speed, so technically you could apply, if you did the programming, you could apply regen on one side, power on the other, and tractor steer around, so that's pretty cool. It's gonna help with your wheel slip. I know a lot of times in traction control, it sucks in a semi-truck, because all traction control can do is you got one drive shaft and it goes out into each axle. All it can really do is decrease power to avoid wheel slip. With this one, we can detect power and RPM speed of each electric motor. So if all of your electric motors are spinning at say 2000 RPM and suddenly one electric motor sees 3000 RPM, it can just back that down to 2000 RPM because it knows that wheel is spinning and it can adjust that. So you have a lot more control and controllability by going to this style. So it's a much more secure package. It's a much more robust. It's a lot more protective. It's a lot better axle. So one of the things we definitely learned from this though is that we want our pickup axles to be the same. So it did take us a while to get this. Had to develop it. It is a new product, but we talked to the manufacturer and they are confident that they can take the same version, scaled down into a pickup truck with the same benefits as this. So we're really, really excited about it. I cannot explain enough how much of an improvement this is and how excited we are. Plus, this is more power. The cool thing with the two motors, each motor is 180 kilowatts. That gives you 320 kilowatts per axle. Two axles gives us 720 kilowatts. In horsepower terms, that's about 960 horsepower on a tandem configuration, and we're pushing 1400 horsepower in a tri-drive configuration. So not only is it more durable, more secure, more protected, it's also a lot more power. And I like the serviceability because both of these two sides, these are two protective covers. You undo the bolts, you can pull either side off. So if you want to access this side, you can service this side. Okay, this is another cool thing about these axles. Right here has a thing that you can control. It's got a little air switch, and basically this can put it into tow mode. So say you have a total loss of high voltage, something has happened, the truck is in a wreck. How do you tow it? On most e-axles, you have to actually pull the axle shafts out. Like some of the other manufacturers, that's what you got to do. This one, you can go in, you can hit a switch, and inside here, we'll disconnect that and allow that to free spool. So basically, you can walk into the truck, hit a button in the truck. This will put that axle into neutral, no drive shafts to pull, nothing. And even in the event of that fails, you got to undo these 4 Allen screws here, take those out, pop this off, and then manually flick it into neutral. So worst case scenario, you're still at least not pulling drive shafts. It's, in my mind, way more towable than yanking axle shafts out or dropping drive lines. All right, so our pickup truck electric axles are in. This is them, and there's a bit of a mistake somehow that came with these. So the front axle here, it works great. The front axle is the right dimension. This is too short for a full-size truck. I don't know how it happened. We double checked. This was the spec that was written down. I'll own this one. I should have double checked the specs we ordered, but this is basically for a Ford Ranger or like a Toyota Land Cruiser. So we took the measurement. It will work for a Ford Ranger, but this is not a full-size pickup axle like we wanted. It's much smaller. We got to order them. We already messaged the factory. They can get us the full-size axle. This housing here with the electric motor is the same between it, but I guess is what it is. That's going to delay us another month on getting the rear axles now. It's going to be about another 4 to 6 weeks to get the proper full-length axles. But on the positive note, I guess we can look for like a Ford Ranger or a Land Cruiser to retrofit now. So a lot of people were asking about Ford Rangers. Like, hey, I've got a Ford Ranger. Hey, I've got a Toyota Land Cruiser. Can I do it? Well, I guess you can because we have spare axles that we didn't need. These designs right here are only temporary to start with because this is what they had on the shelf that we could order, get shipped over as quick as possible. But they're not the axles we want in the future. We want to go like the new semi-truck axles over there. Those axles with the dual motors, it's protected. This is exposed. Obviously a pickup truck going into the bush, that's not the perfect ideal setting. We're gonna adapt it with the twin motors, but this lets us get going, lets us get them on there, lets us get testing. Okay, so these are the axles on Topsy. You can see your electric motor is all exposed. You've got an oil pump down here. Like for something that's going into the mud and the muck, this isn't great, and it's a lot of weight all the way outstretched. You can see that these new axles are way better. You know how bad I wish we had a warehouse and a forklift? Like this is such a pain in the ass. We have to store everything on trucks because we're out of yard space to move things around. We have to move everything using a 30-year-old backhoe. Like, I can't wait till we can grow I guess you got to start somewhere though. Okay, so our other shipment just arrived here right now. We're gonna sort this out, figure out what's going to Ontario for Deboss Garage and our other partners, what's staying here, and just kind of open up these crates and go through what we got. All right, power inverters are there. This is what changes the DC from AC power. You got AC power coming out of the generator. This takes that power, puts it as DC so you can charge the batteries. Takes the DC power, sends it to the motors. So these right here are the motor control units. Basically, the power comes from the batteries into the motor control unit, and then that sends it. So when you step on the throttle, you send a power input, and you're basically saying how much power you want to go to the motors. This is what controls that motor control unit. These are what go onto the back end of that Cat diesel generator. They're what produce your power. So this is attaches where a transmission would attach. But we got the proper input shaft. Ah, yeah, she's a proper spline. It's an SAE1 housing, so it'll mate up. We don't need the adapter plates like we did last time with Topsy. These are meant to go directly onto the back of a diesel engine, exactly like a transmission would, unlike the one we had from Danfoss. So all of this shipment, I know it's a little confusing. We got pickup trucks and semi-truck parts all showing up at the same time. These are generators for the next semi-trucks we're building. So you guys remember before we had a 3-in-1, now we have the 4-in-1. We went to the factory, we talked about them. It is now here, so now we can run more functions off of this. You remember before on the semi-truck, the 3-in-1, we had power steering, air compressor, and DC to DC low voltage vehicle charging. Now we have one additional feature, so if we got to put a hydraulic motor or something on that, we have that additional option. Okay, I'm going to take it apart. We get a lot of comments that say, how do you service it? Well, what if it breaks? You got to replace the whole thing? That's not what Edison Motor stands for. So I'm going to take this 3-in-1 and I'm going to show you exactly how you do your maintenance to it. And here is what is inside the box. Yes, it looks like an absolutely huge box for what's in there. With the more functions, you just add more of these PCB boards. But this is all interchangeable. So when we blew up the 3-in-1 on that last video you seen when we were doing some testing, or 3 videos back now, what the guys actually had to do was just change out one of these individual boards. So we lost one function for low voltage charging, for charging those DC batteries. What happened was it blew out one of these PCB boards. All we did, grabbed it, undid the screws, took out the PCB board, plugged the new one in, so you don't have to get another thing. Or if you blow a fuse, you can take a fuse out. Everything in here, for the most part, is largely serviceable. You can have spare parts. You can just put the part in. Like, why do you need the whole new box if all that's broken is one of these? So this is just one of those things that we're making sure for right to repair. You can service the whole 3-in-1 without having to replace it. That's how it should be. So all of the power equipment from China arrived. We have a different supplier that actually fabricates these parts. So these are cross members. These are designed locally and everything, but nice arrival time. We went with straight up I-beam style. We've got 2 different lines, so it's a little bit shorter than the frame rail is. So we can run all of our high voltage electric lines on here where we got a flat surface. And then we have a couple different pass-throughs for air lines, ABS, light lines, coolant lines, whatever else we need. So we can pass coolant line through the middle, air line on each side, low voltage, and then all of a high voltage serviceable off of this flange. All right, we got all the electric axles loaded up. They're on their way to Deboss in Ontario. We know they're too short, but he figures he can make a way. I mean, that guy's brilliant at figuring these things out and knows the right people, so he'll adapt those axles, get them into the Dodge. I'm excited. All right, exciting news. Our frame rails are here, so we can start building the next couple trucks. All right, we're here getting the next set of frame rails all sandblasted, primered, and then the top coat will be going on here in about 30 minutes. It's exciting. These are literally the start of the next 2 trucks right here. Okay, so the way these cinches work is that the belt goes into it and twists around. A lot of people take this one end, they feed it through, and then they got to pull the whole thing through. That's wrong. The way you want to do it the quick way, just grab it, take just this curled end, put it through there. Now it's tight. Then when you got to undo it, rather than taking that whole thing out, you just grab it. Done. It's about 30 seconds quicker per strap. When you got 30 straps, that's 15 minutes of time savings. Now, I've seen so many different things online about what to do with your extra tails. Well, you talk to any flat decker and they've all got the exact same thing they do with it. They don't twist it around. They don't tie them in a knot. They don't put a bungee cord on them or electrical tape. They just grab them and they stick them right under the load. They just go right under the load. Then when you tighten them down, just tightens your tail down, holds your tail. All right, the frame rails for the next trucks are all painted. They've dried over the last few days. Now we got them loaded up. We'll get them back to the shop. We'll start putting on cross members, suspension, all the components that make up a chassis. But this is exciting. All the parts are here, they're painted. Now it's time to go bring them home, put them together. All right, so you guys know we've been driving around, we've been hauling logs. We're at the point where we can now just use Topsy for our own stuff. So we have to get these frame rails back to our shop. We can use our own truck to do it. As far as I'm concerned, that's a huge step for the company. It's awesome. This truck ran so well all the way home. Like, that went phenomenal. No issues, no problems. Like, we're hauling loads, it's working good. All right, so the frame rails are now back at our shop. If you want to follow along and see the next videos, the truck's being built, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and we're gonna show you step by step how we're building these next trucks with all the parts that are in the yard here. So stay tuned, guys.